Okay, is this a clean or unclean animal?
It's a filter.
But God has taken the unclean animals and He's used them to teach us amazing, amazing truths. Amazing. And this animal here has an amazing truth to tell you. Of course, they're not that big. They're actually, this one in particular is a smaller one. It's a cleaner shrimp, so it's not a huge one. It's not a jumbo, but it's still good sized. And where do these animals live? So they live in. Thank you. Back on. No.
Try it now.
There. Now we're working. Okay. Back up. So let's start from previous one. Shrimp. And it has a skeleton, but where's the skeleton? On the outside. And it's a very simple animal. It's a cleaner shrimp, but it also cleans the bottom of the ocean, not just fish and whales and whatever else. It's busy cleaning as garbage collectors. I'd hate to think what we would be in America without garbage collectors. We'd be like India or Nepal or downtown Kathmandu, or it'd be terrible. So this little animal lives in the tidal pools along shorelines, but it's out in the deeper water as well. How does that little animal stay upright all the time? Perfectly upright. Doesn't matter what the turbulence is. Doesn't matter how big the waves are. It's a little guy, but it is able to stay on its feet all the time. How is that little animal able to do that? You think of the turbulence there. There's not a boat that could stand that. And yet this little shrimp is able to do it. Well, scientists that discovered this little grain of sand right up here in the skeleton of this small animal, and they concluded that somehow that grain of sand has something to do with its orientation. They weren't sure, but how did they figure this out? So they designed an experiment. This is very important to know why a shrimp has a grain of sand in their head, right? So they collected all these shrimp, they put them in a tank, and then they thought they had vacuumed out all the sand, because they were thinking that somehow the sand has something to do with their orientation. And they vacuumed out all the sand, and in this place they put very small metal beads in the place of that. And then they reintroduced the shrimp. Oop, I'm getting ahead of myself, Emily. So when it came time for the shrimp to molt, they would lose their exoskeleton, and as their new skeleton was hardening, they'd reach down and they'd pick up one grain of sand and they'd put it in their helmet before it solidified. And at least they thought all the shrimp did that. Thought, okay, good enough. They're using this stone to do something. And then they wheeled over a large electric magnet over the top of this tank. Excuse me, there was no sand, so if there was no sand, what did they pick up? These tiny metal balls. Do you see where we're going with this? So then they turned on the electric magnet, and guess what happened? They all flipped over on their back and started doing the backstroke. Except for one. Except for one of them. For some reason, there was one in the crowd. There's always one in the crowd, folks. Always one in the crowd. And this one in the crowd was swimming normally, and you can just hear the rest of the shrimp, can't you? Look at him. She is very strange. He's wrong. She's upside down. You are sick. Does that sound a little familiar? Well, I feel okay. And lo and behold, when they looked, this particular shrimp somehow found a grain of sand amongst all the metal beads. And so they termed this the status stone. And what is our status stone? How do we orient to this world? What are we using? Are we using science books, man's science? And there's a lot of credibility there, obviously. But is that our status stone? How do we orient to all the things that are going on in the world?
The Bible.
There we go. Here's our status stone, right? And I know for me, coming out of university and science degree and so forth, it was kind of a shock to my thinking, but I had to reorient. It's taken time, and there's even now, I have to reorient. And I come across people who have to still reorient, or they've reoriented a little bit too far. And they say, well, in my Bible it says, well, it may say in your Bible that the moon has light, but I hate to tell you that, I hate to break the news to you, but the moon does not have its own light. It says in my Bible. It also says in your Bible that Jesus says, eat the flesh and drink the blood of the Son of Man. I hope you don't take that literally either. So it's been an adjustment. We're going through the scriptures to see, you know, where do you apply the word literally, and how do you apply it? I'm getting off topic. Let me go back. I want to show you something here. Some of this we've already seen, so I'm going to flip around. My first experience with natural medicine was hydrotherapy, and I didn't call it that at the time. I just somehow wandered into it. I was in Mexico. I'd come out of the desert after 3 weeks, and I was relaxing on some shore, and I got dysentery. Oh, they call it the turista, if you've been there. The tourist blues, and they are uncomfortable. And I got this not dysentery, it was diarrhea, severe. I didn't even want to walk, and I didn't know. I hadn't the vaguest idea what to do. I had no idea. Nothing came to my mind. Just suffer. And somebody mentioned to me that there was a waterfall down the beach. And in my mind, something that said that would feel so good. And so it was about a mile, and I crawled part of it, and I would walk a bit and then get down on my knees and crawl. And I felt so bad. And I come around the corner, I got down at the beach, and I come around the corner, and here's this waterfall falling onto the beach. And where it fell, there was this stone had been set up. It'd be about half the size of this pulpit here, and it was just standing there right when that water hit conveniently on me. I looked at that and I thought, wow. So I didn't wear many clothes at that time in my life anyway, so I took what little I had off and I sat down on that rock, and immediately I started feeling better. And I probably would still be sitting there today, except it happened to be that I was sitting on the local laundromat. And these women were coming up with their clothes to wash their dirty clothes on the rock that I was sitting on. So I had to put on what little clothes I had and be on my way. But I felt totally recovered. How did that work? I have no idea, but it just rejuvenated me. And I had no more diarrhea. I didn't have any symptoms or anything. Got through that experience. So that was my first acquaintance with hydrotherapy, and I really do believe that hydrotherapy is a potent medicine. We're going to show a hot foot bath tomorrow. Now Josh and his dad here, Josh is running a fever, and his dad is married to a emergency room nurse. She's a head nurse on some of the most major hospitals along the west coast of the States, Canada, Alaska, Korea, and other places where she's head nurse for emergency. And over the years, they have slowly gravitated to natural medicine. And here, Pauline and, got a memory lapse here, I can't think of the father's name. Anyway, giving Josh a hot foot bath. And he's got a fever. Well, what is wrong with that? How do you give somebody with a fever a hot foot bath? What's happening? Anyway, we'll talk about it tomorrow. If you come here tomorrow, you'll hear. Right. So, backing up here. This is the World Health Organization, World Health Assembly, cognizant resolution section 4434. Cognizant of the potential medical and economic value of plant substances, especially as regards to the use of scientifically proven safe and effective traditional remedies to reduce national drug costs. Who wrote this? The WHO? Isn't that amazing? Requests the Director General to ensure that the contribution of scientifically proven traditional medicine is fully exploited within all the WHO programs where plant-derived and other natural products may lead to the discovery of new therapeutic substances. So this is, their interest is out there. It's already in place, and we have the great opportunity of being on the spot, expounding on these simple remedies. Do you think charcoal is on the WHO list? Number 10 on the list for the WHO as essential medicine. Number 10? There's 1,000 on that list. Has to be alphabetical, but in any case, they know that charcoal works. And they know that other plant substances work far more effectively for malaria than quinine. There's one that comes out of China that is exceptional for the treatment of malaria. No side effects. Now I mentioned aloe vera. Everybody knows what we're talking about when I say aloe vera? Anybody who does not know? You've had some. So what would you use aloe vera for? As it says here, burns, blisters, ulcers. So ulcers on the outside, ulcers on the inside, frostbite, blisters. So it's sort of like an ulcer. And as I mentioned, Alexander the Great, who was into killing people, and it was not remotely with drones. They did it hand-to-hand combat, right? So it was pretty gruesome wounds, you can imagine, after one of their skirmishes. He had one medicine of choice wherever he went on his conquest. Aloe vera. Wasn't charcoal. Maybe they used charcoal, but this was his treatment of choice. They had wagon loads of aloe vera plants that all those people did was take care of those plants. On these wagons, they were hauled all over the world, his conquering world, as the medicine of choice. So again, here you see a medicine that we don't normally think of as maybe that effective, but I've been in places where it grows like a weed, and the people do not know that it works. How is that possible that traditional medicine in traditional countries have lost, and all their focus is what? Pharmaceuticals. That's all they can think, and if it has an American label on it, it's got to be more effective. It doesn't matter if it's the same generic product or not. If it's got an American sticker on it, it's more powerful. So here's one that works really well, and Kimberly likes to use it with her charcoal poultices. Tree resin, then you think of frankincense, pine pitch, essential oils. Again, great for wound healing, female hormone system, mosquito repellent. Buku leaf, anybody heard of this one? Where did I hear about this one? I think it was at Uchi Pines. Anyway, they use it for urinary tract infections, UTI. Now, if you go online, the one thing they're going to tell you not to use it for is what? Urinary tract infections. But it works. Bladder and urine, anything along that line works really well as a cleanser. And Kidney would stand up here and tell you about her bleeding, and it just, nothing was working. It was very, very painful. And I had some old buku leaf, and it was mostly stems because we couldn't find any that was just leaves. It was riddled with a lot of stems. So it wasn't the best sample to use, but she made some tea and drank it, She added more. She never threw away the original leaves and stems. She just kept adding to it and drinking it all day long. By the end of the day, no bleeding and no UTI from then on. Period. It was over. It really works. I mean, it's just, and it tastes so nice, and it smells so pleasant. It's not one of those, that you have to really almost gag to get down. So it works well, including for PMS instead of Premarin. Smartweed. Now, it's not what you think it is. But it's smarts in the sense that it has a little bite to it. And without much trouble, I'm sure I could find some here, maybe around your own garden. It's a weed, and it grows on these, it kind of travels across the ground, but it'll stand up and it has these pointed leaves, and it has these sometimes white or pink tight budded flowers. And it's once it starts, it's hard to stop. And it grows and grows, especially along water courses. And I would not have ever thought about this weed except that it was endorsed by Ellen White. Did you know that? It's one of those ones that kind of goes under the radar screen, but it's a powerful stimulant, it's diuretic, but it's also an analgesic. For pain, wow, does it work? Fast. So really a bad toothache, you put a few leaves in your mouth, and usually if you can get them into your mouth, it has a bite to it. It does smart. It's maybe not as much as cayenne, but the same idea. And so it smarts, but it really helps with pain.
So it's edible?
They do use it as an edible, as a seasoning, yes. They dry it and use it as a pepper substitute.
So you're saying to make a tea with it, John?
We did. Or we just sometimes boiled it and put it in. Now Ellen White will talk about that. She said smart weed boiled. So I'm assuming she was thinking it had to be the essential oils are better released if you boil it. I'm assuming, and then mixing it with charcoal. Red clover. This was Ellen White's favorite herbal medicine, especially for female issues. Anybody know this one? Isn't it a shame you have to eat this? I mean, it looks so beautiful. And it tastes not bad at all. Antiviral, anti-inflammatory, acne, cramps, constipation. So again, you can become an herbologist and know about everything, but when I trained there at Uchee Pines, the emphasis was if you can learn 10 to 12 herbs well, you'll be doing very well because they have a crossover. You can use them many for different applications. So if one is available, there's a good chance the other one is available. So God, again, his arm is not shortened because you can't get charcoal. He's probably got something else within reach that you can use. And if you don't have calendula, maybe you've got red clover. I learned this one from an Amish booklet on burns, first, second, and third degree burns. And they were invited into hospitals to treat the severest of burns. And they would steam mullein leaves, and they would lay them on the wounds. They don't stick to the wound. And so if you've dealt with burns and you've dealt with debriding, you know it's just not a pleasant experience. For you, it's obviously not for the patient, but they just peel right off. So when you're done, you're not dealing with this tremendous discomfort. And then charcoal as well. God's miracles do not always bear the outward semblance of miracles. Often they are brought about in a way which looks like the natural course of events. When we pray for the sick, we also work for them. We answer our own prayers by using the remedies within our reach. Water, wisely applied, is the most powerful remedy. As it is used intelligently, favorable results are seen. God has given us intelligence, and he desires us to make the most of his health-giving blessings. Well, I've been reading a lot of statements, and I do want to move on to our main subject here. What does this have in common with this? What has in common with this? Which is what has it in common with this?
John, you're out there. Charcoal.
It's the punchline, right? Baby colic. Acute psychotic mania. What do they all have in common?
Charcoal.
Charcoal. That's not possible, right? You're the gatekeeper of your health. We've been through this one. Has everybody seen this one on Alice? Okay. Which way you're going to go? Oh, I've been through this. Where are we? Oh, here we are. So what we're going to look at is medicinal charcoal. To get there, we're going to also look at a range of different applications that charcoal is used for, not just as a medicinal. So I wrote a book, charcoalremedies.com, at the encouragement of a Dr. Agatha Thrash years ago. And at the time, I was a building contractor, renovator, and very quickly it morphed into a business. And today this is our second warehouse where we distribute charcoal all around the world. We distribute it to the military, to NASA, research universities, health food stores, individuals, estheticians, the food industry, chemical industry, and so forth. And most people say, oh, can we come help you? And they think of coming to a little mom and pop packaging facility, but that's not what we are. Let's progress beyond that. So to be clear, what are we talking about? This is where do we get this thing from? Our fire pit, our wood stove. This is what we're talking about. It's not something great and mysterious. After the campfire goes out, what have you got left? Medicine. Who would have guessed? Next time you have it. But it's also in Chinese fireworks, and that's where it got its beginning. Commercially, it started showing up in fireworks, and they still use it today in modern pyrotechnics. They got its start in gunpowder, and that's why one state refused to allow charcoal to come in through the mail because it's explosive. Well, it is, but it's not. It's not gunpowder. It's an ingredient, but it's not gunpowder. Here is a water filter. When the sailors crossed the ocean, sometimes their water would go bad. Well, how are they going to keep water fresh? They would light a fire inside the barrel. They would scorch the inside of the barrel, and that was a water filter. Neat, huh? Here's a charcoal kiln, and you can see that they can be very large. This is activated charcoal. So I've talked about charcoal, and now I'm mentioning activated charcoal, and we'll come back. We'll do a circle on this. So activated charcoal is used in all kinds of water filters. This is an aquarium. We also sell to municipal aquariums, the larger ones. Here is the wastewater treatment facility for Bangor, Maine. They wanted to do a PR program to show that the water that went back into the stream was clean. And so they asked us to supply charcoal for their experiment, and in this they ran this effluent through the charcoal filters, and it was safe enough to raise salmon smolt after all the contaminants had been removed, showing the public that we're doing our job, we're keeping things clean. But it's in bottled water. Is that bottled water there? Why is it clear when it's been gone through a black charcoal filter? How is that possible? Swimming pools, there's that space station. How much would one bottle of water like that cost to put on the space station? US tax dollars. Anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 to put 1 liter of water, 1 pound of water on the US the International Space Station. Now, they don't want to waste, as I said, our tax dollars, so they're going to reuse that water, right? And they're going to reuse it and reuse it and reuse it and reuse it. hundreds of times, and one of the filters happens to be activated charcoal. Used for food coloring. Didn't somebody ask, is charcoal in food? Expensive caviars, jams, Burger King, charcoal yummy gummies. Now, hopefully you've never been to if you've been to this program, you know what the answer is, so don't answer. If you can get it right, I will give you a charcoal stick, but I know you're not going to get it right, because nobody has ever got this question right. It's a trick question. It's a little bit trickier than this question. Which gummies have charcoal in them? No, just the black one. Just the black ones. You're straining here. Now you can strain all you want. Which one of these juices, grape juices, has charcoal in it? Be brave. Give me an answer.
The black grape.
The black one? Okay. No, that's wrong. What?
Neither.
Have you been to our program?
I guess you're saying it's got to be a trick question.
Okay, give the doctor a stick. There you
I
go.
thought you said they had two.
There you go.
Which one of them had it?
I thought everything.
It was a trick. It was a trick question. So if people say, well, the purple one, no. Well, the white one, no. Which leaves what? None of them. But the one on the right has been filtered through charcoal, but because it started off as the one on the left. So the charcoal took the color out, and then the charcoal is used to put color in. So it does both. In the food industry, it's used both ways. Cosmetics, this has become a big thing. Facials, estheticians use it for facial problems. Fine vegetable oils are cleaned out with charcoal. We'll talk about animals and gardens later. Avalanche control, we sold a whole bunch of charcoal to the National Park Service to control avalanches, because they use salt to melt ice, but it harms the delicate balance of nature with adding all this salt. So they started applying charcoal, and that then draws the heat from the sun, and it helps to melt the snow. And we've had golf courses that want to start earlier in the spring, and so they'll order a whole bunch of charcoal to put on their golf greens so that the snow melts faster and they can get out their passion sooner. Pharmaceuticals are pretty well all cleaned with charcoal. They take out, like the chemical industry, pharmaceuticals want very, very specific chemicals. They don't want any contamination, cross-contamination. They want a specific reaction. And so the closer they can get to a pure product, the better. And that goes as well for pharmaceuticals. That way they have a better way of prescribing, thinking that, if it's pure, I can prescribe it more. But we're not all created alike, right? So one person might need this dosage, the next person might need half the dosage. So it's not a perfect science. Nutraceuticals the same way, often are cleaned up with charcoal. Air scrubbers on power plants, nuclear submarines, buildup of carbon dioxide, they have to take that out. HEPA air filters, hybrid electric cars, the fuel cells use charcoal to take out sulfides that impact the efficiency of these fuel cells. In war, so activated charcoal really got started in World War I and II, and they started putting coconut activated charcoal into these respirators, and that respirator would take out the poisonous gas as fast as you could breathe. They even had respirators on donkeys to help them survive. And here we have the Iran war, and you can still see they're using, or you can see that they are still using these respirators. But what you don't see is it's in their army gear. Their clothing is also quilted with charcoal to mitigate nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare agents, which takes them out very quickly. Now, this nurse on the right, she has on a charcoal mask that does everything This thing over here does everything that that does. And it weighs a feather. And we could not keep up in COVID. The International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicologists are one of our customers, and they use this in their industry for removing amalgams, dealing with mercury amalgams and contaminants. Spacesuits, they want to recycle that air, and 1 pound of air also costs the same amount of tax dollars. So you're beginning to see the huge utility of charcoal. It's very, very, very varied. And it's more than we would ever think of, so much so that the average American is influenced by charcoal, they say 12 to 20 times a day. Whether it's the food you eat, the water you drink, the air you breathe, the medicine you may be taking, it's all been touched one way or another with charcoal. But medicinal charcoal goes way back, and to Egyptian times that they know for sure. And they found these Egyptians buried in layers of sand and charcoal, and it preserved them. They modified the application, and then they used a derivative of charcoal for mummification. But in the past few years since I became aware of this, I've been listening to the news, and I catch these little blips here and there. Oh, they found this mummy in Argentina or in the Andes or in China or Africa, and they're buried in these large crypts of regular charcoal. And they look a little bit dehydrated, but otherwise they have not been decomposed. It's stopped decomposition. Now I say if it's good for dead mummies, what about living mummies, right? Should we work for them too? In Egypt, they also excavated posts along the River Nile that had been scorched by fire, leaving a thin film of charcoal around the trunk. And they used those to make these pilings along the River Nile, and they didn't rot. They just stayed there. So I'm assuming that somewhere along the line, they must have gone out into a forest, and they saw that there was a forest fire, and the tree got scorched, and nothing really wanted to grow on it. Where here's another trunk of a tree that wasn't scorched, and it's decomposing down to nothing in a very short time. So that ought to tell us that charcoal is what? It is antibacterial, fiercely antibacterial and antifungal. Nature is telling us this, if we can not only observe and analyze. Medicinal charcoal, 19th and 20th centuries. Now this is an admiral in the British Army, I believe. Charcoal mixed with breadcrumbs or yeast has long been a favorite material for forming poultices among Army and Navy surgeons. Did you know this? Anybody here from the Armed Forces? Did you know that? A favorite material. The charcoal poultice has also obtained a high character in hospital practice as an application to sloughing ulcers and gangrenous sores. You all knew that, right? You never heard this? And recently, this substance has afforded immense relief in numerous cases of open cancer. Somebody asked me about cancer. So this is a fungating cancer that they're applying it to. By soothing what? Pains, and correcting what? Odor, and facilitating the separation of the morbid structure from the surrounding parts, which means what? It means that you're going to start seeing granulation, you're going to see new tissue forming, and it's going to grow towards the center. And we've seen that. We've seen it in a very, very amazing way with a guy in the last mega clinic that they had in Asheville. It is unnecessary to mention other instances of its use, for in this form charcoal is now admitted into the London Pharmacopoeia, and it is in general use in all naval, military, and civil hospitals. You've heard this before? You shouldn't have, because it was back in 1857. 1857, they already knew that charcoal was, and this was not activated charcoal. Activated charcoal did not come around until the end of the 1900s, early 19th century. No, I'm getting the earliest 20th century. There we go. So it had this history. It was widely known what happened to it. It fell off the radar screen and basically went hidden for decades. One of the most beneficial remedies is pulverized charcoal placed in a bag and used in fomentations. This is a most successful remedy. If wet in smartweed boiled, it is still better. So I mentioned smartweed. This is the author, Ellen White. I have ordered this in cases where the sick were suffering great pain, and when it was been confided to me by the physician that he thought it was the last before the close of life. Then I suggested the charcoal, and the patient slept. The turning point came, and recovery was the result. To students when injured with bruised hands and suffering with inflammation, I have prescribed this simple remedy with perfect success. Brian was showing me his wound from a dog bite, I believe it was. And it was, the infection seemed to be spreading. It looked to be, from the pictures, it wasn't getting better. The antibiotics were not working, and so he decided to use charcoal poultices. And he says it was a little bit awkward putting a poultice on yourself, but he managed. And in a short time, he showed me pictures that it was starting to resolve itself. But here is the catchphrase. Again, this is coming from a layman, and she's describing something from lay terms. The what of inflammation?
Poison.
The what of inflammation? So when we see the word inflammation, what should we think? A poison. From a layman's perspective, this person is telling us that the trigger for the inflammation is what? And we read that from the CDC director. In that one case, they said that the poison from the microbes and the drugs combined were causing that strep infection to not recover. Here she said long before that, the poison of inflammation was overcome, the pain removed, and the healing went on rapidly. Did the charcoal cause the healing? No. Charcoal is not causing the healing. What is charcoal doing? It's removing what? It's removing the poison, and then what? The body does what? Heals itself the way it was designed to do. So we get out of that pickle of saying yes, charcoal cures, by simply saying no, it removes poisons, and then the body heals itself the way the Creator designed it to. And I've said that in secular audiences, and they all nod their head. Makes perfect sense, and we're not making any claims. Here it is, from the poison of inflammation was overcome. And what was the result? Pain removed. So some people in South Korea came up with a product called pain patch, charcoal pain patch. And it works for pain. And I don't know if they read the statement or not, but it really does work. But to me, when I finally saw, and I'd read this so many times and I never really focused on it, this poison of inflammation, it started answering a lot of my fundamental questions. How does charcoal work on these infections that are so bad? You can usually see within 2 hours that the infection will stop. The healing does not stop. The healing will continue on, but the infection will usually stop, I would say, roughly 2 hours. What is happening? So I'd ask myself that question. What is happening? Why is it doing this? It doesn't matter how bad the infection or cancer, usually 2 hours, you're going to see it stop. It's not healed. That process could take a while. Here about yay big. They used to sell for $22 each. These are high-end stuff. athletic gear with spun charcoal in it, EMF catchers next to computers, and so forth. All kinds of applications, charcoal cloth up there in the right-hand corner, so forth. Hospital use, poisoning, drug overdose, kidney dialysis and liver dialysis, hemoperfusion cartridges, wound dressings. Like I said, Johnson & Johnson, we have a similar wound dressing until the manufacturer said, no, we can't sell it to you anymore. It only can be distributed through pharmaceuticals. But it's a very simple product. It's almost as simple as this one. I don't have any here with me, but of course, if you can't, they're very expensive. They're not cheap, these wound dressings, but they work. I was coming back from a program in the UK, and my seatmate was a head nurse in some London hospital, and conversation ended up on charcoal. I know all about charcoal, and I said, I've heard this one before. And she said, we use these dressings on MRSA infections. I said, really? She said, yeah, when nothing else works, we just take that cloth, we wrap it around the site, and it's over with. Now, if you can use a cloth, charcoal cloth, could you make a poultice? Probably. Renal disease, pouchitis. Pouchitis is where they section off the anus, and but it becomes inflamed, and so Mayo Clinic came up with a round suppository to control pouchitis, and just by inserting this charcoal suppository. Renal disease. Kentucky Poison Control Center, in-home use of charcoal for poisoning in children. 2001 study, 138 cases, 115 children treated at home. Average 38 minutes for home treatment, average 73 minutes for the emergency room. Well, 73 minutes, where's the poison? It's long past the stomach. It's down there where Ipecac ain't going to get it. There's no purgative that's going to bring it up from once it gets into your small bowel. So ideally you want to get to it when? As soon as possible. And where's the soonest? In the home. Half as many children vomited in the home. Well, you go to a sterile hospital, strangers in white suits giving you something. Isn't a child more likely to resist than at home with its mother and dad? Of course. And that saved, they said, millions of dollars. Here's a short list. The list, this is a 4,000 list. When I first wrote this article, it's way over 14,000 now. When they added in the forever chemicals, it's probably up closer to 20,000 known chemicals that charcoal will neutralize. Here is some toxic metals known to be affected by charcoal. Aluminum's not really that well. It will, and most of these will work. It's actually, charcoal is used in the fine metals industry to purify gold and platinum because it takes out impurities and refines them, and some of these other ones as well. Where am I looking? Oh, radioactive metals. We'll come back to that one. Smoking teeth. This is it's an X-ray of a, how old? 25-year-old filling right here. And this is mercury vapors coming off when exposed to warm water. Are mercury vapors dangerous? In this case, 1,000 times the EPA limits. This is from the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicologists. Oh, they recommend charcoal. So they have a protocol for giving a patient charcoal water to drink before the treatment, before removing amalgam. And after they've removed the amalgam, they have them rinse the mouth out with charcoal water. And do they spit the water out? Nope. they have them swallow it. Because it will more likely get rid of it. Once it binds to the poison, it does not want to let go, and it will carry it out of the system. Emergency use. Poison Control Center in Kentucky said every home should have charcoal. Well, when is the best time to go for a fire extinguisher? When you have a fire? For a fire. And so they're recommending everybody to have it in their homes. Does everybody here have it in their home? Are there some that don't have it in your home? There's a few. Well, the recommendation is have it in your home. Hope you never have to use it. And maybe you will never have to use it for yourself, but you might have to use it for your neighbor, right?
Does that have expiration?
Not really. The charcoal that was used for those mummies is still active thousands of years later. So if it's kept in a dry, dark place, it usually will last indefinitely. So here's just some common applications of charcoal for internal use, external use, animals. Oh, again, we're talking about charcoal. The Reader, this is a textbook on activated charcoal. David Cooney, chemical engineer for University of Wyoming. The reader should be convinced that ever new uses for the remarkable substance known as activated medicinal charcoal will continue to evolve. That was 1995. He would have no idea the applications for charcoal today. He could see it happening. We worked with a research development company in Rapid City, South Dakota, and they have brought in chemical engineers from all over the world. And the comment is almost every day they think, oh, we could use charcoal for this. Oh, we could use it for this. They're constantly thinking of applications of how they can use charcoal to take out unwanted ingredients. And here's one common application. In most dialysis units are used to clean the water that cleans the blood. But then you have some perfusion cartridges that actually also have charcoal in them. So the charcoal goes right over, the blood goes right over the charcoal, the bed of charcoal. Loma Linda University Hospital, Dr. Hillebrand came up with the liver dialysis machine. It was something that we were developed as a church. And it's now used for extreme cirrhotic cases where the people can't even talk anymore. They're so toxic, and they look like everything's shut down. One application of this liver dialysis unit, and they can talk. Isn't that just amazing? Now, if you don't have access to one of these machines, are you out of luck? What could you use? What? Okay. But could you use charcoal in a glass? Where's Leanne? Oh, calling Leanne. Calling Leanne.
We're playing Matchbox cars again.
Calling Leanne. We need to make some charcoal drinks.
What kind of charcoal things?
Well, we're just gonna have a break here and do something different rather than listening to me. So I want you to. Is Mason going to help on this one?
Yeah, he can.
We're just going to mix up some cups of charcoal water.
Okay.
And this is only for people who've never drank charcoal. No, I shouldn't have said that. Who has not drank charcoal water? 1, 2, 3, a few of you. This is only for you. The rest of you, you already know.
Yeah, but here's the thing. What kind of charcoal water have you drank? Was it super gritty? Grainy? Okay, because I had a lady that she grew up in the Adventist church, and all her life when she was a little kid, her mom kept giving her charcoal water to drink for all these various ailments. She cringed when I told her that I was going to mix up a sample, because she was like thinking about all these times that she had this when she was a kid. But I was like, no, but try this one. And she did. She's like, what? So it was like super smooth, and she loved it.
But in a hospital, it comes in a bottle, dry, and it is gritty. It is definitely gritty. It's not smooth, because charcoal fine powders will settle out and they do not want to break up. They'll just sit there, and you can shake all you want, it won't come apart. And so they use a grittier grade of charcoal, and you could almost sounds like a maracha, you know, you could shake it. But they'll add water to that, shake it up, clip the top off, and then they'll have the patient drink it. But now more and more they're using these super grades of charcoal powder, which are as smooth as silk. Now we've got a little bit of a breeze here.
Yeah, I see that.
Be careful. Okay, who's not drank charcoal water? Come on up here, please. Oh no, come on up here. Here we go. Here's a volunteer. Come on up. Okay, what are you doing? So you put some, you're doing it backwards.
I know, I'm supposed to put water first. Okay, well, we do it this way.
So she's doing it backwards. I'll have to give her a training class.
Yeah. I don't think I have enough water anyway.
So you put the water in the glass first, because charcoal is used in fireworks, right? So charcoal wants to